Mr. Tech Easy bringing another how-to video on a MacBook Pro. Today I'm going to be showing you how to pull the keyboard out for either a replacement or a cleaning, usually needing to be done after a spill of some sort. Macs are fairly resilient with spills, but sometimes when they do spill, the keyboard either goes bad or gets sticky and needs to be replaced or cleaned. So today I'm going to show you how to remove a keyboard. It's not the funnest job because there are close to 100 or maybe even 100 teeny little screws, which I'll show you here in just a little bit. But anyways, just wanted to get another video up. It's been a while since I posted. I just had my 5th kid, so things have been really hectic, busy with that. But anyways, so here's my next video. I've already pulled out everything. If you need to get to this point, you need to check out my video, how to remove a logic board. That will get you to this point. So, and you only have to watch the first half of that video, but to get to this point. So anyways, from right here I'm gonna go ahead and start stripping things down and show you what I do. So once again, I use a ice tray to keep track of the screws in the order that I take them out in. So anyways, let's get started. So at this point, my next deal is going to be to remove the optical drive, the speaker, and the cables here that connect to the LCD assembly. So first things first, there's a screw underneath here, underneath here, underneath here. For the optical drive, there's 3. And then we need to remove this little arm right here that holds the cable assembly down for the LCD lid. We need to remove these 2 screws to pull the speaker assembly out. So first off, I'm going to start with the speaker assembly. Grab the right screwdriver here. These 2 screws here are different sizes, so make sure to keep note of that. So at this point, this actually happened to be a friend of mine's who spilled, or his kid spilled some sort of drink in it. So now I don't pull all these cables out of the speaker assembly at this point. I just kind of fold it over so it's out of the way. Now at this point we can go ahead and pull this arm. Now this little retainer arm right here, there's 2 screws in it. One of them, on most Macs, is actually connected to a little ground strap right here to this cable. The screw is usually just best left in the little strap. It's kind of hard to get out, so I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. I'm going to pull this screw out, and I'm going to undo this other screw, and I'll show you what I mean. So at this point you can kind of pull this assembly up, and then I just pull it out of that other screw. I leave the one screw in place so I know where it goes, obviously. This screw can just stay in there. It won't fall out on its own. It's kind of difficult to get out, so I'm just going to leave it at this point. So again, this part I'm just going to kind of pull over to the side. Now we're at the point where we can remove the optical drive. And these, so far in this unit, I think this is a 2009 MacBook Pro 13-inch, if I remember correctly. And this particular model, almost all these screws you use are all going to be Phillips. So all 3 of these screws on this one I'm working on are exactly the same, so they can all be put together. Just make sure when you're taking yours apart to verify that they're all the same size, because if they're not, you're definitely going to need to make note of where they go so that you don't accidentally put a long screw where a short screw should go and screw it deep into something. So kind of at this point now, we should be able to move the optical drive bay here. The easiest way is to kind of pull it up from the back side here and then pull it out. And there we go. The optical drive is out. I'm just going to leave this on here for right now. I've done this numerous times, so I'm pretty confident with working around some of these cables that are laying here. Some people prefer to take all these out so you don't damage them. These are super thin cables and can get damaged fairly easily, in which case then your hard drive's not recognized. But I'm just going to leave it here. But if you wanted to remove it, there's 2 screws here. However, this assembly has to come out as well, as this cable goes to it as well. So it's easier just to leave it, in my opinion. Next, we have to pull out this little bracket. It goes across the middle here. There's just 2 screws for it. So I'm going to loosen that screw, leave it right there, loosen this side, and leave it in there. I'm just going to pull that assembly out with both the screws still in place so I know exactly where they go. Put that to the side. Alright, so now we're to the keyboard. This plastic, this black that you see right here, is actually a protective cover that's on the bottom side of the keyboard. This is here in part to protect, if there is a spill, from the liquid getting onto the logic board. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, there actually was some spill that got to the logic board and got all that cleaned up. But the main key is if you ever do spill something on it, get the power out of it right away and get it tore apart and cleaned up before the damage corrosion starts setting in. So now what we have to do, this particular one I'm actually just cleaning. I'm not going to replace this keyboard because the keyboard's completely functional, just the keys are sticky on it. With that in mind, we need to be very careful with taking this apart. I want to be able to reuse this black bottom cover, and it's got adhesive along all these little tabs right here. You can see all around the edge. So we need to take care in peeling this off. The other thing too is it sticks to the keyboard as well, especially when there's been a spill on it. So because of that fact, it's still possible that it could damage it pulling it off depending on how sticky it is. But we're going to try our best to get it off without any damage. This particular part right here is actually the backlight for the keyboard. As you can see, this little cable right here that we unhooked earlier, that's for the backlight of the keyboard. So we need to take care with this piece. So usually what I try to do, use the flat end of the spudger or the pointy end, depending on which you can kind of get under best. Sometimes you have to use a really small flat head screwdriver, but usually what I try to do is start by getting underneath one of these edges and just kind of go along it and pry up that sticky tab like so. So there's one up, and you just kind of go around and do the same on all sides. This one's a little harder to get to. I'm going to use the pointy end. So you can see I'm kind of twisting it here, just kind of help move it along. Okay, so I've got this whole edge done right here. I'm going to come over to this side right here. Now there's this black piece of tape right here. This is actually covering up the cable for the power button. The power button is a separate piece right here that we'll end up having to take a couple of screws out of and remove too. But this black piece of tape right here is covering up the actual cable that leads over to it from the keyboard assembly. So now I'm going to peel the tabs up along this edge. I'm going to use a sharp end so I can get a little better angle here. Now again, my videos are designed for those people who have never done something like this before. I know I'm going slow. I know all you techies out there are like, oh my gosh, this is painstakingly slow. Can't you speed it up or speed up the video? But my videos I try to do in real time so that just the person who's wanting to dive in and try this on their own and are nervous or scared can take their time doing it. So no point speeding things up. It's nice for people to see how things are in real time. So, all right. So now I've kind of got this one corner up here. I'm going to show you something really quick. So if I peel this back a little bit, you kind of see this plastic and white sheet right here. This is actually the backlight. All this white, when the backlight for the keyboard turns on, which is through all these LEDs right here, lights up kind of like fiber optics would, so to speak. So, so this whole assembly actually needs to peel up as well. And I like to bring this up all in one piece. So now that I have this corner up, and you can see, I don't know if you can see here or not, let me try to zoom in really quick. But if you can see this little red dot right there, that little red dot is one of the liquid spill dots. It's what tells Apple if you've spilled something and you try to take it in for warranty work. They tear it apart and they know there's been something spilled on it. There's also some here and here. They're at random spots within here, but it lets them know if you've spilled something, and they're not going to cover it under warranty. So as you can see on this one, that one's turned red, which means it's had liquid spilled on it. So this might be difficult getting this off, but we're going to give it a shot. So again, if you can get under this little edge here and try to peel this up. Now there's a piece of plastic. I don't know if you can see, there's a piece of plastic peeling up here. I've got my spudger underneath it. But then there's also this piece of plastic with the white on it. Now the key is to try to get this all up as one piece. If you start peeling it separately, it starts tearing. That may still happen, in which case you'll have to order a new keyboard and backlight assembly. But we're going to try to peel it across in one piece, and we'll see. So I've never had this one apart for this particular problem. I'm just shooting a video while I'm doing it. So I'm hoping to pull it apart so I can just fix it and he doesn't have to pay for another keyboard, but we'll see. So the thing here is just to take real good care. I'm going to try to see how I can angle this so you can see here. So right here I've got my 3 layers. Not quite sure how well you can see this, but I'm going to try my best. So we've got the layer here, it's just this top black, the clear layer which covers the light, and this white layer. So here I'm trying to peel this back, and some of it's just peeling up right away, but some of it's sticking. So if it's sticking, you kind of have to get in there and try to pull it up real gently. And I can already tell there's a lot of sticky stuff in here, so we'll see how this one goes. But as you can see, it's coming up in different layers, and below you can see the keyboard with all these teeny screws we're going to have to pull out here shortly. So I'm going to set this back down. Now you kind of seen that section there. And I'm going to start pulling it up. Now with this one, it's actually coming up fairly easy now. So sometimes you have to pry those tabs that I was talking about, that I did along this edge and this edge. But right now, it's coming up fairly easy, and it's pulling this off. But again, you just got to take care with it. So do it slowly. Wow. As bad of a spill as this had, that actually came up pretty easy. So now you get to see the disgustingness of how bad this is. This right here is what happens. There's a lot of crumbs and nasty stuff just from everyday typing and everything. But you can also see some of these sticky areas where whatever was spilled on it spilled through. So that actually came off very easy. I'm happy about that for my sake. I kind of wish it would have been a little more difficult for you guys, just so you guys could see how bad they are to take off sometimes. But that'll save my buddy some money. So here we are to the dreaded keyboard. I'm going to show you a couple things here. see if I can zoom in here. So for one, this has screws here, 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 here. You get the picture. There's a ton of them. And I don't know if we can zoom in to see just how small they are. They're super teeny and they strip extremely easy. So we're going to have to take great care in pulling all of those out. So sometimes these are silver, usually they're black. I've only ran into one out of, I've probably done 20 of these jobs. I've only run into one that had silver screws, and it was horrible because it's hard to see kind of where they would be. Some of these holes don't have screws. Anyways, it's hopefully you don't get one of those, but these are all black. So one thing that I've found is easy to do and helps you kind of know where they need to go back in. Now all these screws are identical in size, so you don't have to worry about measuring them or separating them out from other screws, but sometimes it's hard to tell where they go back in. Right now you can kind of see them because they're black and so they contrast against the silver, but when you have them all out and you're going to put this back in, sometimes it's difficult, you know, especially because they're so small. If you have bad eyes, it's hard to tell exactly where they go because all these holes almost look identical. So you don't have to do this, but I found that it makes it easier. I just take a black permanent marker and I just kind of make a line right next to each of them, like so. And what that does is just let me know when I go back to put these in, this is where a screw goes. Nothing rocket science, it's just a little aid that will help you do it quicker and a little less strain on the eyes once you get back to it. One on the corner there by that spill indicator. And voila. So I've just marked all of them. Again, that's just going to aid us in putting it all back together. One thing I'm going to point out, when the keyboard assembly goes back in, and maybe I'll show it to you then as well, but if you notice, I don't know if you can notice, but right here there's a little post sticking up, as well as right here. When this goes back in, we need to make sure that those align up well before you start screwing it all in. Once I did this, and I start screwing from one side, and by the time I got down here, I realized that it didn't slide down on that post, and I had to undo half these screws to get it to fit back onto the post. So you want to make sure in advance that that's there, and I usually put one screw in beside it just so that it stays in place. So we'll get to that as soon as we undo it. So here goes the time consuming part, painstaking. One thing I highly recommend is getting a really good Phillips screwdriver. Don't use a cheap one, because either A, you'll strip out the tip of your screwdriver, or you'll strip the screws. Now these screws, if you strip them, short of drilling them out, they're practically impossible to get out just because of the size of them. They're recessed down in kind of a little dimple where they sit, so you can't get like screwed or pliers, or they're so small anyways. So the bottom line is if you strip it before getting it out, the only way to get it out is to drill it out, and you don't want to have to do that. So so take good care. So all these screws screw into this aluminum frame, so it's okay to put a little bit of pressure against them as you're turning them. you know, it's on a solid frame, so you can give it some pressure to make sure it's grabbing onto the actual screw and not stripping. So usually what I try to do is just start from one end and go to the other down the lines. They're kind of in lines. So anyways, I'm going to start undoing all these screws. And again, make sure you get a screwdriver that's going to fit in those holes. In fact, I think this is my larger one. Hold on. Yeah, so this is the one that I actually have used in the past. It's a little Craftsman, part number 41059AB. What the F, WF, I don't know. So anyways, this is the one I'm going to use. And again, usually what I try to do is I'll always give it a tighten turn, like turn it clockwise just to tighten it, like just a fraction until you feel it spin just a little bit. And then you can turn it counterclockwise to start unscrewing it. What I find is that kind of helps break it free just a little bit, but it's better to break it free turning it clockwise, because if it tries to strip a little bit, it strips the head the opposite way. That way you can still undo it. So if that makes any sense. So again, turn it clockwise just a tad, and now keeping downward pressure on it until it feels like it's getting loose, then I can pull it out. Other thing, magnetize the tip of your screwdriver. This one's kind of lost its magnetization, so give me just a second, I'm going to magnetize it again. So this is a screwdriver magnetizer. I don't know if you've seen these or not. You can get them at any hardware store. Pretty much just take your screwdriver in, run it in a couple times, spin it, and now all of a sudden it's picking up the screw. So now I want to show you the size of this screw, and let me see if I can find something to put it on. Well, we're just going to go in the palm of my hand here. So this is the screw. I'm running this from a GoPro, so I don't know how well it's going to zoom in and show this, but not very well at all, obviously. But anyways, it's super teeny. For size comparison, this is one of the logic board screws that you pulled out to get the logic board out. This is the screw compared to it. Oops. So sorry you can't zoom on a GoPro that well, but if you can kind of see just the size difference, they're teeny. Super short, super small threads. Very difficult to pull out. So there's one. So back to my handy ice cube tray. I'm just going to start dropping these in there. Now, if when taking them out you do strip one and you don't think it's worth trying to put back in, don't use it. Throw it away, put it to the side. Ultimately, you want to replace all these screws if you can. If you have to leave one or two of them out because they strip, or even three, you can. You would want to space where they're missing when you put it back together. But there's the potential of that area of the keyboard, when you push on it, kind of gives a little bit. It's not going to be much because all the stuff is pretty tight. But usually I'm going to recommend, if you screw some up and you don't want to reuse them, do them somewhere along the edge where we put that bracket here, because that helps hold things in place there too. So, but don't put all of the missing ones all side by side either, because you don't want to have a weak spot in the whole board. So. So once again, just going to pull this hard drive cable aside, and here we go. So clockwise and then counterclockwise to loosen. So sometimes you have to feel to get it in place too. Like some of these, like this one is a good example actually. This one has some junk in it. I'm sure you can't see it on the video, but sometimes you kind of have to work the head of the screwdriver into it. And again, keeping pressure and loosen it. Yeah, that one has a lot of junk on it. So again, just go on with each one of these. Again, trying to get it in there clockwise just a tad, just to break it loose. Any of you guys out there that are mechanics, a lot of times I have to do the same things on my cars. I'm a big Volkswagen guy and like working on cars and stuff too. And it's kind of the same thing. Sometimes you have to break the bolt or whatever by tightening it just a tad and then break it loose. So, anyways, I'm going to kind of stop talking throughout this part because yeah, like you want to hear my voice as I'm just doing 100 screws. So I'm going to turn my music here just a tad bit, some Deftones. You guys can just follow along. It's row 1 done.
You're not making a movie, are you?
Yes.
Are you really?
Yes.
Okay.
Now you're on it.
Oh, lovely.
It's my lovely wife.
Can I get the ladder out, you think, by myself?
As long as you don't hit my car.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I think it's not even hung up. It's just leaning against something there.
Okay.
Okay, love you. That was my lovely wife. Two rows done. I'm going pretty quickly at this, just because I'm familiar with it and done it before. Definitely, if you're a first timer at this, take your time with these screws, because again, they strip so easy. It can get frustrating. So take your time. You're not in a hurry, so. And if you do this multiple times, you start getting more comfortable with the tensions of the screws and everything, so. Another row down. Now if you're ordering a brand new keyboard, be careful what you order. Some come with backlights, some do not. I recommend that if you're going to replace the whole thing, get a new backlight assembly with it too. The price differences are practically nothing. You can usually find good deals on them on eBay or something. I might try to find a link, however eBay links change all the time, so I hate to post something up and then it's not available when somebody goes to click on it. But typically if you look up a replacement keyboard for these on eBay, you'll find them, and you can usually get a whole assembly. And you know, I think the most I've ever paid for a new keyboard with the backlight assembly is like 40 bucks shipped, which is pretty cheap considering. You got to be careful. You know, Apple components are usually super expensive. Oh, here I've got one that's stripping. Again, I'm giving this a lot of pressure. I don't know if you can see, but it's pushing down on the whole board. So that one stripped a little bit. So I think it's still usable. I'm going to set it aside from the other one, so just so I know that that's one I'm going to have to take special care with. So anyways, back to the Apple stuff. Apple components are usually pretty expensive, especially OEM. Now there are some aftermarket stuff out there. Some good, some junk. The main thing I always say is that if you're getting anything off of eBay and it's not OEM or you're not sure, check out feedback. Get it from a place that's been around for a while or has, you know, tens of thousands of feedback. I never buy anything off of eBay unless somebody has 99% or better feedback. Some of you might say, oh, well, that's picky, you know, what about 98.5? Well, there's so many places out there selling stuff. Why not choose the best if you can? You know, I know sometimes people get a bad rap. If I'm not 100% sure about something, go back and look at the feedback too, see what kind of people they are. I ordered something the other day, or was looking to order something the other day off eBay, and was just kind of, they had some negative feedback. They were at 98.9, and I'm like, that's pretty close, you know, I'll check it. So I was just reading all the negative feedback. You can just click on their feedback, and you can choose just to look at the negative feedback. And as I looked at the negative feedback, they were like bashing on people who wrote bad comments about him. Like they were saying, you're an idiot, you don't know this, you're dumb, or I mean, they were literally like, you know, if I'm a business, I'm not going to call my customers dumb even if they complained for the wrong reason or if it wasn't legitimate. I would at least say something respectful, you know, like, well, customer misunderstood or didn't know, or, you know, gave an unfair, you know, comment, blah, blah, blah. I would never go calling anybody an idiot. So even though they had decent feedback, I decided, and they had a way better price than competitors, I'm like, I'm definitely not ordering from those people. So, but again, check out feedback, especially specifically for that item that you're wanting to order. I don't ever like getting aftermarket batteries because they're usually crap. Oh, here's another stripped one on the corner, no less. So again, if it's stripping a little bit, sometimes you got to give it a little more pressure. Got it. Now that one's a little more stripped, so I'm going to set it aside with that other stripped one. The reason being is when I go to put these back in, there's so many, you like to kind of go quickly and just, you know, magnetically grab one and stuff. If I know they're stripped, I know I need to take care to make sure I get it on the screwdriver really well. So. Again, I can't emphasize enough when you guys are doing this, take your time. I know I'm kind of going through this fairly fast. Sorry about all the ums, just have it. But these screws are really delicate and you want to make sure to take your time with them and be careful. Last screw, I think. So I think it's the last screw. So I just kind of go through and double check to make sure I didn't miss any, because last thing you want to do is go to try to peel it up and there's one there and you bend the frame and all that sort of stuff. It can make it break it or make it hard to get back in. So I just kind of visually inspect, make sure I got all the screws. Down. This is another way it's nice when you mark where they were. With the black marker. Also, sometimes there's this little, I don't know if you can see this, there's a little cushy thing here. I don't know what the hell that's called, but anyways, that's where that bracket, the bracket from earlier, sets against that. So make sure not to lose that. Also, on here, there's actually a hole that fits through. So when you go to put it back in, make sure that that's sticking through that hole. Okay, so I think we've got all the screws out. Let me just verify. Looks like we got it all. Turn my music down here. Alright, so now we're to this point. Don't pull it up yet because we still have a cable hooked up. So, trying to show you this the best I can, get you centered here. So again, we're back to this cable right here. There's a cable that goes underneath this. Now we need to take care with this because this is a ribbon cable, and sometimes this sticker sticks to it kind of tightly, and you got to be careful because you don't want to break that ribbon cable. That's your power button. If you break that, you got to order a new keyboard. It's all integrated into the keyboard, so when you press that power button, it sends a signal all through the keyboard and in through this cable. So there's not a separate power button for it. So what I found is easiest, don't peel the sticker off from this side because it's actually stuck directly to the cable. Usually I try to peel it off on this button part right here. So I'm just going to kind of peel it. It's okay if it rips, like right here it's already the sticker part anyways. It's kind of ripping along this speaker cable. In fact, it's just going to rip right in half. So this isn't critical, but you just got to be careful of that cable underneath. Now the reason we have to peel this off though is because the ribbon cable for the power button actually goes underneath this speaker wire right here. So as I peel this back, you can kind of see that ribbon cable. See the ribbon cable right there? I'm kind of poking it with a spudger. So again, there's two screws right here that we need to take out for this power button, and then it kind of angles out, and we got to get it underneath this speaker cable. So screwdriver again. We're going to take these two screws. Now these two screws are not the same as the bottom of the keyboard screws. This model, these two screws are identical to each other, so I'm going to put them in their own little bin. So now I'm going to try to get this in here as good as possible and show you guys this. If you kind of go down underneath here, you can kind of see that moving, that whole panel. So you just kind of got to get it to wiggle out of there as best as you can. There, it's kind of out of its little socket now. So now what we're going to do is we're ready to pull the keyboard. Now that's still underneath that cable, so we need to take care, but as soon as we pull this panel out, then we can kind of slide it out from there. So what I normally do is start at one corner and try to lift up. Now you can hear that's kind of sticky. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's kind of sticking. If that's the case, you can open this up. I don't know if you can see this, but you can kind of push against the keys because now that the bottom part's not on there, it helps pushes it through. Now back to right here, as you see I'm pushing this through right here. This is thin metal, so we got to take care not to bend it, otherwise it's going to be difficult to put back into place. So it's pretty fragile. So this one is actually really sticky, so I'm going to have to push all the way across. Now what I recommend doing in this circumstance, I'm going to flip this over, push along a set of keys one at a time. You know, push along here until it starts breaking it free. You can kind of do a couple at a time. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's pretty loud because it's real sticky. This part's worse than, this part's actually harder than pulling this part off, which this is usually one of the hardest parts. So, oh yeah, it's very sticky. So again, I'm kind of holding my hand against this as I'm pushing so that it doesn't bend that aluminum backing. That sounds horrible. Alright, so now I'm holding this in place. Don't let it fall out because that power cable's still there. So now that I've got it all broke loose, I'm going to kind of fold this back down. And now I can pull it up from here. Which again, sometimes this pulls out easy from the bottom. You don't even press the keys, but here I'm having to. So now that we've got this off, take very careful right here because of this thin cable. Now if you need, you can use a spudger to kind of help guide that out, but we need to pull that power button from underneath there. So that's how that power button looks on there. Again, that's that spill indicator, that red light. So here's the bottom side of the keyboard. Top side of the keyboard, there's that power button. Now, with the power button, I'm going to show you one thing really quick. This is out and everything. I'm going to set it to the side for a second. I'm going to zoom in here really quick. Where that power button sat, that little, it's got a little ring in here. I'm trying to see if you can see this. I'm going to pull it out with this spudger here. So you see this little ring right here? Make sure that goes back into place. It's really easy for you to drop that or fall out, or sometimes it sticks to the bottom of the power key and then you pull it out and it falls off. That has to go back in there. The reason being, that's what has the retention. You know, when you press your power button, it feels like it kind of clicks a little bit, so to speak. That is what this little ring does. I don't know if you can see it from here or not, but it's not completely flat. It's ribbed around the edges and it's to give push. So anyways, make sure that goes back in. That's really important. Once I did not put that in, and I did all this and I put the keyboard back in, and I just knew right away as soon as I pressed the power button that I'd forgotten to put it back in. The power button I still got to work, but I didn't feel right just leaving it that way, so I tore it all back apart and put the ring back in. So anyways, that's where we're at with that ring. So make sure that goes back in there, and you can tell there's a round circle in there. It fits right in there. If you just drop it into place and kind of guide it in like so. So when you put that power button back in, it's going to have that little give to it. So there we are. At this point, we have gotten we've gotten this keyboard up. Congratulations, guys. That's probably the hardest thing to do with taking a MacBook apart. Logic boards scare people, but honestly, logic board isn't that many screws. It's just got to be careful taking it out. So one of the things that I always recommend doing, though, with a spill like this, if you can see, I don't know, I'll try to angle it here. There's all sorts of sticky residue here, hair, crumbs, all sorts of stuff, but a lot of sticky residue from whatever the spill was. I recommend trying to get all that cleaned up as good as you can. You can use a microfiber rag with a Windex is usually pretty good. Usually I just kind of wet the towel and then wipe it off, so that way to keep it clean. So but you don't want to put, I mean, you go to all the trouble to tear this down. You want to do it proper and clean it good before you put everything back together, because there's no point in spending all this time, effort, and money, tear it apart and just do it half-assed. So anyways, I recommend cleaning all this stuff up before you put the replacement keyboard in, or after you clean up the keyboard. Now, this keyboard right here, I'm actually going to do a cleaning on because it's still fully functional. So I don't know if you can see this in here, but you can see all this sticky residue all underneath here. A lot of the keys are just sticky, but all this residue I need to get out of here. With that, I'm going to get to cleaning this. So got to pause the video for now, but I'll be back to install this thing here in just a little bit.